How's it going, everyone? I am back with another video. This is going to be my week three score predictions, with the exception of the Thursday game. I recorded a separate video for that one to get it out before the game happened. In this one, I'm going to go through all the week three games taking place this week, and break down my thoughts for the games, how I think the game's going to go, and ultimately give my score prediction, all that good stuff. So, just dive straight in here. Yep, so as I mentioned, the Thursday game, I made a whole video on this one. So I had the Bills winning 34-20. I kind of predicted the Dolphins to get a bit more offense than people were expecting. That's exactly what happened. They scored 21, so I was 1 point off. The Bills scored uh what 30 what the hell was the final score of the game? No, it was 31-20. So I was pretty close to my score prediction, or 31-21 rather. Um, but yeah, the Dolphins, I pretty much said if they have any chance, their offense, I think their offense is going to overperform a bit how people are expecting. So that could be a reason why they win. But the game kind of went similar to how I expected. Didn't expect it to be that close at the end, but the Bills pulled away, got a good win there. But I'll recap this game more when I do my recap video for the week, sometime next week. Getting into the Sunday games here. Packers Browns. I get the Packers winning this game 27-16. They're favored by 8.5. So, a pretty big spread. Very well could cover that, but I'm probably going to stay away from that spread. I'm pretty confident straight out that the Packers are going to win the game, so I'll probably include their money line in my parlays. The Browns, if they do win this game, their defense, I do think the Browns defense will be able to keep it relatively close, but I just think the Browns offense is going to have a rough time in this game. The Packers defense been playing lights out. I think that'll carry over on the road in Cleveland here. Browns offense has not looked too good. We're only 2 weeks in, but it's not looked good so far. Going against arguably the best defense in football, probably right up there with the Chargers right now. I just think they're gonna have a rough showing, get a couple field goals, maybe get a touchdown or two there. If, like I said, if the Browns do win, I do think their defense will keep it relatively close. Their offense is just going to have to get touchdowns instead of field goals and move the ball a bit better than I'm anticipating. The Browns are a bad team, but I think they probably will upset a couple good teams this year. I could see the Browns winning this game. I wouldn't be shocked, but I am pretty confident with the Packers. I think, their offense, Matt LaFleur, really good game planner. I think Love will, hit some guys deep, get some big plays there. I don't think, though, I have them scoring 27. I originally had 24, and I had the Browns at 13, so I had 24-13 Packers. Then I upped the scoring a little bit. I can see the Packers, only scoring like 21, 20, 24, somewhere in that range. But honestly, they'll probably get like a pick or something off Flacco or a good field position they'll take advantage of. So I tacked on some points. So yeah, I'm pretty confident with the Packers in this game, but I wouldn't be shocked if the Browns win it. So I had the Packers winning 27-16 in this one. Jets Bucks, definitely at the Bucks. I would be surprised if they lost this game. One thing to note is that Todd Bowles, since he's taken over as the head coach of the Bucks, he has started every year from 22, 23, and 24 2-0 in the 3 seasons he's been the head coach of the Bucks. He's lost week 3 every single year, and last year they played the Broncos week 3 at home, and everyone was hammering the Bucks that game. No one thought Denver was going to win that game. In my survivor pool, I picked the Bucks in that game, and I got eliminated from it. The Broncos obviously last year turned out to be much better than expected. Went 10-7, made the playoffs, but at that point they were 0-2, and their offense looked abysmal. And we were all expecting the Bucks to win, and they dominated the Bucks. The Bucks looked awful in that game. And Todd Bowles is the head coach of the Bucks, and he kind of did this prior with the Jets too, but obviously more recently with the Bucks. He has a tendency. Well, I guess the Jets were mostly a bad team with Todd Bowles, but now that he's the head coach of a good team, he has a tendency when they play bad teams to sometimes just show up and perform have a flat performance. Um, I feel like the Bucks have at least like one or two of those games every year, maybe even three. They don't lose all of them, but this could be a trap game. I don't think the Bucks are going to overlook the Jets. I mean, the Jets will be a bad team this year. Week one, everyone was surprised how well their offense did, and then I think that they kind of returned back down to earth. They looked horrible last week. Justin Fields is out; he's not playing in this game. I would have picked the Bucks anyway if Fields had played, but if Fields had played in this game, I think he would have had a big rushing day in this one. But Tyrod Taylor's playing. I had the Jets scoring 16. It definitely is, plausible that the Bucs really limit the Jets offense. They only score like 10, to 13. And I had them at 16 here. My gut's kind of telling me the Jets offense might get some big rushes in there, some big plays down the field. We know Todd Bowles loves to run an aggressive defense. Maybe it bites them, allows some big plays in this one. Another thing to monitor, the Bucs offensive line is injured beyond belief. They're going to be missing 3 starters in this game. And also Kalijah Kancey, that's another blow that they just had on their defense. They're getting absolutely killed with injuries, the Bucs. So the Jets, look out for the Jets to maybe, send some pressure. Aaron Glenn, he is not afraid to send pressure at times. So look out for Aaron Glenn to maybe send some pressure, try to get to Baker with the Bucs offensive line as banged up as it is. I do think the Bucs, I have them scoring 26, but I think they'll probably, be moments in this game where the offense kind of stalls out for a lengthy amount of time, like we saw in the Texans game last Monday. But the Bucs defense, settles in. I think the Bucs will probably be leading from the start in this game, and I don't think I definitely could see them just blow the doors off the Jets and win in a complete blowout. But I have it relatively close. Bucs favored by 6.5. Home opener for them. Again, if the Jets do win, I think it'll be because their offense, as I mentioned, gets some explosive plays. The run game gets going, and their defense maybe gets a lot more pressure on Mayfield with the Bucs offensive line, all the injuries they have there. But I'm pretty confident with the Bucs in this game. I had them winning 26-16. Big Bucky Irving day. I think he might go off in this one too. Falcons Panthers. Falcons favored by 5.5 on the road. That's quite a bit for a road favorite, especially for a division game. I have them covering that spread, but I wouldn't touch it. I had the Falcons winning 27-20. I mean, the Falcons, we all saw, against the Vikings, even if people were picking them to win that game, I don't think anyone expected them to win the game in the fashion they did. They completely dominated the game, led from start to finish. Their defense looked great. Penix and company, they didn't light it up, but they moved the ball consistently that game. Then, the Panthers, on the other hand, I mean, they had that wave of momentum when they were down big, down 24 against the Cardinals. They came back to make it a game, but they ended up losing. I just think they found a momentum wave and kind of rode it in that one. I don't necessarily think that's going to carry over here. The Panthers are just a mess. I mean, their defense is a disaster. We saw last season they had like a historically bad run defense. It's not too great this season either. It's bad this season. Bijan, I think he's going to have a monster game in this one. Look out for him to, pop off. I'm sure it's saying that I'm probably facing him in multiple fantasy leagues. Didn't even think about that one. So look for him to pop off. I do think, though, this game will be a bit closer than people think. My gut kind of is telling me that the Panthers, they get a bit more offense than people are expecting. Maybe they score late and say, the Falcons going to blow it again. But, the Falcons hold on. I think it will be close. I could see like 24-20, like 24-21, something like that. But I think the Bijan is just going to absolutely maul the Panthers in this game. That'll set up play action. The Falcons can take some deeper shots on the field with that. Penix, I think he'll have a good game. I just think the Falcons offense is going to have a good game. Their defense will play good. Panthers maybe, just kind of hanging around, even though the Falcons dominating, make it interesting late, but the Falcons hang on. If the Panthers do win this game, I think it's just going to be because their offense overperforms, because I really have a hard time seeing them consistently stopping Bijan and the Falcons' offense in general this game. So they're just gonna have to have a good game offensively. Bryce Young plays like he did when he was down 24 the whole game to the Cardinals. If he plays like that in this one, they'll have a decent chance. But I don't think the Falcons are gonna completely almost collapse like the Cardinals did in that game. I had the Falcons winning this game 27-20. Rams Eagles. This is definitely, I think, on paper at least, the most intriguing of the early afternoon games, the 1 p.m. games at least. This can go either way. I originally was gonna pick the Rams, and the more I thought about it, I'm like, this kind of has an Eagles just squeak it out feel. Just squeak it out feel to it to me. I had them winning the game 24-23. I think their offense, obviously a lot of talk about the offense, how it really has not been too good the first 2 games of the season. Really, I mean, it was looking good until that rain delay against Dallas week 1, and then after, not the rain delay, the lightning delay rather. And then after that lightning delay, it has not looked too good. They put up 20 on the Chiefs, but Hurts barely at over 100 yards. A lot of talk about Hurts. I saw a stat that he's attempted more tush pushes than he has 5-yard passes, 5 air yard passes, and he's tied with Tyrod Taylor, who just came in the game in relief of an injured Justin Fields last week for like passes 10 plus air yards. So a lot of talk about the Eagles offense. Obviously the tush push, that's getting a lot of attention. With the uncalled penalties and such, more attention than it normally gets. The Rams defense has been playing phenomenal this season, but my point is, I do think the Eagles are probably going to have some rough patches of offense in this game where it's like, oh my God, like this is not great offense. But I do think their defense is going to, kind of contain the Rams for a good portion of the game. I think the Eagles offense will have an explosive play here and there. That'll help, they'll get a couple field goals, have a big play, get a touchdown. So, I think they'll score in the 20-24 range. The Rams offense, it looked good in the second half against the Titans last week. But besides that, to me, it just feels like, they have patches of moving the ball, but then they just kind of stall out. It feels like they get to settle for 3. I kind of feel like that's what we're going to get in this game. The Eagles defense will make a couple stops, force some punts, hold them to 3 instead of, allowing touchdowns. That'll be a big difference in this game. Good mix of offense and defense for both teams. Bright spots, some rough spots for both units on both of these teams in this one, I think. But I know if this was in LA, I would probably be picking the Rams, and I, of course, would not at all be surprised if they just straight up won this game, even on the road in Philly. I think I originally had them beating the Eagles in my preseason like full predictions, but obviously I'm not gonna. Those are gonna change. That was before the season. Now, I'm not gonna 100% go off my preseason pick. I'm just gonna do it on a week-to-week basis. Eagles favored by 3.5. I would not touch that spread. They very well could cover it, but I don't really see either of these teams winning by more than 1 score. I guess the Eagles, maybe they just pop off offensively. Maybe they could win by 10-14, something like that. But I have a hard time, regardless of which team wins this game, seeing it's within a few points. I wouldn't touch the spread, period, but I may bet on the Rams to cover the spread. I don't really see them, if they do lose this game, I don't see them losing by 4 points. So I think the Rams will cover the spread, maybe do an alt spread of 7, something like that. But yeah, if the Rams win the game, I think their offense is simply just not going to have to stall out, and they're going to have to, get some touchdowns and field goals like it feels like they have been the first 2 weeks of the season. That'll be a key because I think this game is going to be tight. Every point matters in general, but especially tight games like I think this one will be. And their defense just going to have to keep playing the way it has been, make the Eagles' offense, the not so productive offense it's looked like the majority of the first 2 games. So, yeah, I had the Eagles squeaking this one out here, but I would not at all be surprised if the Rams win. The Rams have looked better than the Eagles, in my opinion. Both teams are 2-0. Through 2 games into the year, I think the Rams have looked better than the Eagles. But Eagles at home, I think they're just going to squeak it out in dramatic fashion. Again, offense, I think it's going to stall out, be like, oh, yep, here we go again, like the first 2 weeks, but it'll have a couple explosive plays. I think the Eagles just squeak this one out, but not betting on this one at all. I have the Eagles winning by a point, 24-23. Colts Titans. All right, this is gonna irritate the shit out of me that I didn't crop out that border on the Titans logo, so I'm gonna fix that right now. Okay, there we go. All right, never happened. Um, this game I think is going to be a lot closer than people think. Some people I see are predicting the Colts to win in a blowout. I actually almost predicted the Titans to just straight up win this game. Now, a lot of people I see are comparing this Colts team to the last year's Saints team. I don't think they'll drop off as much as that Saints team, but obviously I don't think they'll be scoring as much as they have the first 2 weeks and not I really don't think they're going to go the entire season without punting. That would be that's basically impossible. They're not going to go the entire season without punting. Of course, that's not a bold prediction or anything. But I do think their offense, I just don't think they're going to drop off as much as that Saints team did. And a large part of that was injuries. They got killed with injuries. The Saints did last year after that 2-0 start. But the Colts offense, I think, is going to be good enough to score in the 20s, most games. But my gut really, I'm like, do I really see the Titans or the Colts rather starting the season off 3-0? And the Titans offense, I think it's going to have weeks where it looks good, it looks bad, somewhere in between. We saw last week for the first half, it looked pretty good for the most part. The second half, it was a disaster. But, the Colts defense we saw last week, it didn't play too well against the Broncos. Obviously, it played phenomenal against the Dolphins week 1. The Titans defense didn't play very good in the second half against the Rams, but, it played great against Denver week 1. And, it played pretty good against the Rams for at least a half last week. And as efficient as Daniel Jones has been, you imagine sooner or later he's going to probably have a few bad throws that it's like, well, there's Daniel Jones back to normal. The Titans defense, I think, is going to keep this a close game. Honestly, I mean, on paper, you can say the Colts should just win comfortably, but my gut really tells me that this game is going to go down to the wire, and that regardless of which team wins, I think it's going to end in dramatic fashion, probably go down to the last play of the game. If I remember off the top of my head, I think both the games these teams played last year were pretty tight. I know the one in Tennessee was. I'm going to see the game in Indy here. Let's see. Yeah, so both games were relative. I mean, both games were one-score games last year. And, well, obviously you can say the Colts got better, but I think the Titans did too. The Titans defense, I think, is going to keep it close. I think the Colts offense regresses a bit this week. I don't think they're going to be quite as efficient they were the first 2 weeks. The Titans offense, I think, they're going to have some rough drives, but they're going to have some good drives, just like they did last week. I have them scoring 20. But, in the end, the Colts have been obviously the better team 2 weeks into the season. If this was in Indy, I would feel a bit better about this game, but I'm going to marginally lean with the Colts. They're favored by 4.5. They very well could cover that spread, but I'm not betting them to. Like I said, I think, this will be like a 3 or 4 point game. I honestly might bet the Titans plus 4.5. Probably not, but I may bet the Titans plus 4.5 to cover the spread. But, yeah, I know my gut really tells me this will be a close game. Would not at all be surprised if the Titans win. If they do, their offense is just going to, I think, have to just have 1 or 2 drives, where they put up points that I'm not expecting them to, because I really feel strongly that their defense plays a solid game in this one. But the Colts just, they're just better in general, better coaching, better roster, I think. They're playing better, riding the momentum wave. My gut really kind of wants to pick the Titans in an upset here. 0-2 teams week 3, I feel like can be dangerous. I don't think the Titans are necessarily overlooking the Colts, especially division opponent on the road, but or the Colts overlooking the Titans rather is what I meant to say there. But I'm gonna very slightly lean with the Colts here to win 23-20, but would not at all be surprised if the Titans win. I think this game is gonna be like the way I feel it's gonna play out, without the game happening, obviously, is I think how the Colts are gonna be most of the year. They probably score between 20, and 27. Their defense, some up and down, you know, and they hold their opponent to something like 17-20, or 17 to 28, somewhere in that range most games. I just think the way this game plays out is how the Colts are going to look for a majority of the years, how I'm envisioning this game going in my head. But I'm going to give the Colts slight edge here. I had them winning on the road 23-20. Oh boy. Steelers and my beloved Patriots. So the Steelers are favored in this game by 1.5. I technically have us covering, but I would not bet it on the spread at all in this game. I would be lying if I said I'm confident with my pick. The Steelers on paper are probably the better team than us, but if this was in Pittsburgh, the Steelers, me being the homer, I probably picked my team, the Patriots. The Steelers probably really should win that game. Like I said, the Steelers I think are probably the better team on paper. You figure at some point their defense that it's not played well 2 weeks into the season. That's a talking point. It's going to have to look like a Steeler defense. I think it looks, like the Steeler defense we're used to. In this one, I have a scoring 24. I think they'll probably get some sacks, some pressure on May, force some punts. They'll play better than they have been, I think, the past 2 weeks now. I was pretty confident that was going to be, the way they put against Seattle last week, and that's not what happened. I think, however, on the flip end, I think our defense also gets back on track. It's really not played well the last 2 weeks, but, the end of the game, it's the Dolphins with the Milton Williams sack and Tua to win the game. Hopefully that gives us some momentum we can ride. I don't think Christian Gonzalez, I think he's questionable. We don't know if he's going to play, at least off the top of my head. But, even if he does, he's a bit rusty. So, look out for that. Obviously, even if he's rusty, I think that'd be a boost for us getting, a top corner in the league back. Steelers offense, I think, will have, a couple good drives, a couple bad drives. They'll probably have a deep shot or two, bust a big get a big run, explosive runoff. I think, mainly a defensive game. I could see it regardless of which team wins. I think this is a one-score game. I think it'll be, 2017, 21-20, 23, 20, 4-20. I have 24-21. I could see the opposite. The Steelers getting 24, us getting 21. Could see, I think at most, the most points either of these teams puts up in this one is 27. I think both defenses come to play in this game. But I'm just going to ride my team at home here. I just think hopefully I'm just kind of not expecting, but kind of optimistically hoping we ride that momentum wave into, coming off the Miami game into home here. We want to get a, big home win. We don't want to start 0-2 at home, obviously, fall to 1-2 on the season. The offense was really clicking last week. Maybe the Steelers defense struggling. That'll help us out there. Defense could ride the momentum wave, play like the defense we expected it to this season. But if the Steelers do win this game, which again they're favored to, would not all be surprised if they do. Their defense, I think, is probably going to have to get a bit more pressure and hold, May and company to probably around 20. I mean, they very well could score more than 24, but their defense is going to have to get a lot more pressure, force maybe an extra stop or two. I'm not anticipating. Offense is going to have to slightly overperform, but I'm going to roll with my team to win this one in a tight one, regardless of which team wins. Probably not betting on this game. Maybe I'll do an alt spread of like +7 for the Patriots or something, but I have the Patriots winning 24-21. Raiders Commanders. Now, this is a really tough game. Jaden Daniels is out, so obviously that's a bit of a boost for the Raiders. but Marcus Mariota is more than a capable backup, and he came in last year in relief of Jane Daniels, who was hurt. It was against the Panthers, who were really struggling at that time. You can argue that though, but Mariota looked insane in that game. He played phenomenal. However, for me, the Commanders I thought might regress a bit this year. And 2 games into the year, that's kind of what I've seen. They don't look as great as they did last year. Their offense is having some more issues than they were last season. Uh, their defense actually played a bit better than I expected it to. But, we saw the Packers torch them. I think they moved the ball a bit better than, the final score indicated. Mariota being in there, even though he's, played great for them, I think obviously that's a bit of a blow for them, efficiency, production wise. If Jane Daniels was in there, if this was in Vegas, I definitely would pick the Raiders, I think, but this is a bit bold. I'm not at all confident in this pick, but I am picking the Raiders. Their defense is played a lot better than I think most people expected to. Patrick Graham, I say in like all my videos to talk about the Raiders. Patrick Graham, I always have liked him. He's a really underrated defensive coordinator. He has this defense playing well. I mean, even we saw last week against the Chargers. The Chargers were dominating the game, but it was within reach for the Raiders because even though their offense and Geno were playing awful, the Raiders' defense was keeping it close throughout the game. I think the Raiders' defense is going to kind of take advantage of Jane Daniels being out. The Commanders' offense, not looking, at the efficient level it was last season. I think they'll have a good game. The Raiders' defense. And I think Geno and company bounce back in this game. I think the Commanders' defense doesn't have a great showing in this one. Look out for Genty to maybe get going. A lot of talk on his usage, how he hasn't been, properly utilized, things like that. So be on the lookout for Genty to maybe at least get some more touches and more action in this game. I think Geno bounces back after that horrendous Monday night performance. But on the flip end, I only have it as a 3-point game. I think the Raiders are kind of going to be in control most of this game. And then the Commanders, I think, score late and make it, really tight. But the Raiders hold on is kind of how I see this game going. The Commanders score and say, oh, yep, they're going to win the game. Maybe they force a punt or something like that and say, yep, they're going to win the game, get a few first downs, have all the momentum, and the Raiders defense makes a stop. Or their offense, they're trailing, they score late, something like that. If the Commanders win this game, I think their defense may have to actually not. I actually feel pretty confident Geno and company are going to bounce back in this game. So the Commanders win this game. I think Mariota and company in the offense are just going to have to overperform a bit how I'm expecting it to. But I don't know. I'm just kind of feeling the Raiders in this one. I think they're a bit better than people were expecting. Sort of evenly matched teams. Well, I mean, the Commanders are better on paper, but sort of evenly matched. I don't know. My gut's telling me Raiders. I would not touch the spread in this game. The Commanders very well could cover. But, I mean, I may just pick the spread, the Raiders to cover the spread here, but it's underdog, so I have them winning. But I probably won't. I can see, this game going either way. But I have the Raiders pulling off the upset, winning 23-20 on the road here. Could go either way, though. Jesus, I got to really edit my my borderlines here. Another friggin' Jesus, another white space. Then this one in a white. Oh my god, I thought I fixed it, but whatever. I'll fix it after. Anyway, it's irritating me just one right to fix it now. I'm sorry. This is bothering the shit out of me. Okay, scroll this over. Oh, and now I get one at the top. Whatever, I'll do it later. Okay, Bengals Vikings. This game could go either way. The safe pick would be to pick the Vikings. I really am. I have a strong feeling I'm going to regret picking the Bengals in this one. I mean, you would, going into the season, you saw this matchup. It's like, well, this is going to be a really good game. And, I think it will be a close game regardless of which team wins. But now it's going to be Jake Browning versus Carson Wentz. Jake Browning, I actually think is pretty underrated. He played pretty solid 2 years ago when Burrow went down. Obviously he's not nearly as good as Burrow, but I think he's a bit better than people are expecting. how do I phrase it? PP's a bit better than people think he is. Even last week he made some boneheaded decisions to picks, but besides that, he had some nice touchdowns, had some nice throws. Clutch drive at the end there, working the ball from the goal line. To get the touchdown at the end there to win the game. The big question for me is how is Carson Wentz going to look now? The last time we saw him, he was playing with the backups. Week 18 last season, he got shut out by the Broncos. And then the year prior, he played for the Rams week 18. And I think from what I remember, he didn't really do too much in that game, but he didn't look awful. He won that game, though. I think he is in a good system. Kevin O'Connell, kind of a quarterback whisperer. You can honestly argue that right now he might be the better option than J.J. McCarthy, who looks like he's going to be out a couple weeks because at least Carson Wentz is a veteran. So, maybe not as much fine tuning or as much, on the spot learning as you might have with J.J. McCarthy, given Carson Wentz's experience. But I don't think Carson Wentz is going to look like the prime Eagles Carson Wentz, like 2017 Wentz. But I don't think he's going to look as bad as he did last year. I think it'll be a bit better than last year, but not great either. Browning, on the other hand, we actually saw Browning play this Vikings defense led by Flores 2 years ago, and the Bengals won that game. Browning did get away with some lucky throws that probably should have gotten picked off. I remember this one to T. Higgins that should have gotten picked off in the end zone to tie the game. That especially I think he got away with. But Jake Browning, I mentioned it in my last video when he came in my week 2 recap video. But when he came in on the spot for Burrow in Baltimore, he got hurt 2 years ago. He was kind of a disaster from what I remember. Then he had preparation. He looked solid most of the time. Going against that Brian Flores defense, that really scares me, especially on the road. Very well could see the Bengals really struggling offensively. Browning throwing some bad picks, only scoring like 13, something like that. I really think that's a realistic scenario. The Vikings, they very well could score more than 17. Another thing, honestly, this is probably the reason I picked the Bengals to pull off the upset here, is because the amount of injuries the Vikings have on their offensive line is very concerning. So look for the Bengals to maybe get a lot of pressure on Wentz. Maybe he makes a bad decision or two that changes the way the game's going. But this is a tough one on the road in Minnesota. I mean, it really is bold for me to pick the Bengals. The Vikings, like I said at the start, are definitely the safer pick here. I mean, the Vikings I could see winning sort of comfortably, and I really am not feeling at all confident about this pick. I mean, the Vikings defense has played good 2 weeks into the season. That certainly has not been the problem with the team. But I just think their offense might struggle a bit, and Jake Browning and company just do enough to get it done in this one. Maybe for once, the Bengals defense can help them win the game. At least dating back to last season. But yeah, I very well could see the Vikings, putting up like 24 or something like that, and Bengals struggling, only put up like 13. But I think this game will be close regardless of who wins. Probably, actually, honestly, the Vikings win, I feel like it'll at least be, but I think they'll win by like a field goal. So they could cover the spread, probably wouldn't touch it. I honestly probably am not even going to touch it, even though I have the Bengals winning the game. So covering the spread as underdogs, I'm probably not going to touch it. I don't know. If the Vikings win, I do think their defense is going to play well, but I think their offense, Carson Wentz, is just going to have to do more than I'm expecting him to. Maybe, he gets the ball quicker to avoid the line, the depleted offensive line, beats the Bengals' pressure, maybe bites them there. So that might be something to watch for. Maybe Jordan Mason, he gets going in this one. Aaron Jones on IR, so it looks like Jordan Mason's going to get a bunch of carries. Probably want to make it as easy for Wentz as possible, so maybe look for Jordan Mason to have a big game in this one. But I had the Bengals pulling off the upset, winning 20-17 in this one. Do I really see the Bengals at 3-0 and the Vikings at 1-2? It's tough to see, but I have it happening. 20-17 Bengals, but would not touch this game at all. Texans, Jags. I'm actually pretty confident with the Texans in this game. I'm not too surprised the Jags are favored. If this was in Houston, the Texans, I almost want to say 100% sure would be favored. But it being on the road in Jacksonville, the Texans, 0-2, their offense is really struggling. On the other hand, the Jags defense looked really good, and their offense is, looked pretty good through two games. They really blew the game last week. They really should have had that game against the Bengals. The Jaguars have certainly looked like the better team 2 weeks into the season. But I actually, my gut is just telling me the Texans win this game. I was confident with them last week, and they obviously lost right at the end there to Tampa. But I just really do not see the Texans starting off 0-3. That's not entirely why I'm picking them, but I think they're overall a better team than the Jaguars. And weeks 3, 4, and 5 after the first 2 weeks, I really feel is when the teams start to settle in. Like the Jaguars, the way they played the first 2 weeks, I don't know if they're going to be able to play like that the whole year. Texans know that they really need to, get a win and avoid falling to 0-3. Jags offense, I think the Texans defense is going to be why they win this game. I think, they're going to limit the Jags offense. Their offense is probably going to struggle, get a big play here or there, but just do enough to win. Sort of like, it was in the Tampa game, but they lost right at the end. I just think the Texans defense plays good. They get out of the 0-2 hole, pull it off here. Offense just does enough to get it done. If the Jags win this game, though, I do think their defense will play well, but their offense, I think, is going to have to overperform a bit how I'm expecting it to, which is very possible. I wouldn't be at all surprised if the Jags won this game. As far as the spread, I probably wouldn't touch it, honestly, because I can see this game going either way. Maybe if you're confident with the Texans, you could bet the spread, but obviously if you're more confident in the underdog, you probably just want to do money lines that you get more of a payout. But yeah, I can see this game going either way, but I'm gonna go with the Texans here. Avoid that 0-3 hole, win 2017. And another border I gotta edit. My God. Saints Seahawks. As far as the spread, I have the Seahawks covering. They probably should, but I probably wouldn't bet that. I certainly am going to bet Seattle money line. Honestly, I'd be shocked if the Saints won this game. This has the makings of a potential nightmare for the Saints. On the road in Seattle, the Seahawks defense playing great against the Saints offense with Spencer Rattler and company, which is honestly looked a bit better than I think people have expected, but on the road in Seattle against that Mike McDonald defense, I just really, really have a hard time seeing the Saints having a good amount of success in this game. I just really do not see a path where they score more than at most 20 points in this game. I think they'd have to get a pick six, a muffed punt, special teams play setting them up in good territory, something like that to score more than 20 in this game. I do think the Saints defense will keep it relatively close. I think the Seahawks will have a couple explosive runs. They'll have a couple nice passes in there. They'll be able to, get a couple touchdowns. I think the Saints will hold them to some field goals, keep it relatively close, but I would honestly be shocked if the Seahawks lost this game. Saints, even though they're 0-2, playing a bit better than people have expected, I think. You can make an argument. They had an opportunity to tie or win the game, going for 2 at the end against the Cardinals with a few seconds left. Then they had 2 drive opportunities at the end of the game against the Niners to get a touchdown to take the lead. So they've been right there in both those games, but this one's just different. On the road in Seattle, I just really have a hard time seeing their offense being able to simply put up enough points to win the game. If they somehow do win the game, like I said, I think it's just their defense, I do think, like I said, it'll keep relatively close, but they'll have to get some weird things bouncing their way, like pick sixes, punt return, good punt returns, kick returns, things like that. If their offense does randomly have a good game, it's just going to be a random thing you can't predict because on paper this just is at all not a good matchup for the Saints offense. But who knows? But I'm pretty confident with the Seahawks in this one. I had them winning 23-14 here. Broncos Chargers. This will be a good game. I'm going with the Chargers in this game, and I do think they'll cover that spread. I don't know if I'll bet on it because I think it'll be close, but I certainly think they'll. If they do win, it'll be by 3 points if you round up there. Like this game can go either way. I wouldn't be shocked if Denver won, but Chargers at home, Broncos coming off. I mean, they really should be 2-0. That is just a deflating loss that they had at the end of that game. It's 2 years in a row now where, they last year they missed the kick against the Chiefs. It got blocked to win the game, and then this year the Colts missed the kick. Broncos won the game, but nope. Then they got the penalty. And moved it 15 yards closer, and then the Colts went off that. That's just a gut wrenching loss to the Broncos. The reason I picked the Chargers, or a big reason I picked them, I think their defense is going to force Bo Nix into some bad decisions. Bo Nix, he cleaned it up a lot more this past week than he did week one, but more so week one, he made a lot of bad decisions, had some bad turnovers. He had a bad pick last week, but besides that, he looked pretty good. The Chargers defense is playing on another level right now. And I mean, we saw Geno look great against my team. He looked like a pedestrian quarterback against the Chargers last week. I don't think Bo Nix is going to look as bad as Geno, but I think the Chargers defense, especially at home, and again, they necessarily don't have the best home field advantage. I'm sure there'll be a good amount of Denver fans there. I think they're going to force Bo Nix into probably a bad decision, maybe force a turnover or two that helps them get some points on the board. Chargers offense, I think, will have a good game. I don't think they'll light it up, but I have them, having a pretty efficient game in this one, scoring 23. Probably a similar output, I think, to what they did against the Raiders last week, except, a bit more efficient in the run game. I think that they might get their run game going in this game a bit more than, we saw the first 2 weeks. Denver, I think their defense will keep it close. I think both defenses play relatively good in this one. But I do think the Chargers are going to get some short fields that lead to some points from their defense in this one. That's a key reason I'm picking them here. If the Broncos do win the game, I think Bo Nix is going to have to play a clean game and avoid some turnovers because, like I said, I think this will be a tight game. And the reason I'm picking the Chargers is because I think they're going to get some short fields that leads to points from their defense forcing a turnover on Bo Nix and company. So they're going to have to play, clean football. The Broncos offense, their defense, I think, will play relatively good. So I'm not too concerned. I know I have the Chargers scoring 23, but I do think the Broncos defense will play relatively well this game. The offense just going to have to move the ball a bit better, put up some more points, and play clean ball, not turn it over. I'm pretty confident with I wouldn't be shocked if the Broncos won, but I would be a little surprised if they pulled it off. Sorry, I'm just reading the text here. But yeah, I'm pretty confident the Chargers here. They played great. I mean, Denver has looked pretty good the first 2 weeks, but I think the Chargers have looked better at home. Jim Harbaugh usually wins these types of games. The Chargers swept them last season, and one of the games they were shutting Nix and company out till pretty late in the game. And the other one, their defense, the Broncos torched them in the first half, and their defense tightened some things up. It was kind of a weird, sequence where they had played the Bucs that Sunday. It was a Thursday night game. The Chargers had played the Bucs that Sunday, and their defense just got the lights shot on them by Baker and company. I don't know what the hell that freezing was. The Bucs just moved the ball and put up a shitload of points. There was 40 plus that game. And and then that in the first half of that Thursday game were really the only awful defensive quarters or defensive games the Chargers defense played last year. But yeah, I don't know. I'm pretty confident the Chargers here. Again, short fields, defense forcing some turnovers, I think will be a big key in this game. I had the Chargers winning 23-17 in this one. Cowboys Bears. This will be a good one. This could be a complete shootout, but actually, I see some. Most people, I think I see are predicting a shootout like 30-27, something like that. I sort of have a shootout, but I think both defenses will play a bit better than people are expecting. Honestly, a big key in my mind here is, well, I guess just in general to start things out first. First of all, Dallas has looked like the better team 2 weeks into the season. The Bears, obviously, that was a complete disaster of a game against the Lions last week. And the Dallas offense played a lot better than I think pretty much everyone has anticipated. And they're going against the Bears defense that just allowed a 50 burger and allowed JJ McCarthy to look like a great quarterback for a quarter. And then, the other 7 quarters he's played, he's looked absolutely abysmal for most of the time. And, the Cowboys offense playing better. So that certainly benefits the Cowboys. The Cowboys defense is playing awful, though. And, we've seen the Bears right off the opening script. I believe they've had a touchdown both opening drives. So, I wanted it all be. If the Bears, that might be a key for them to win this game. They get the ball to start. They just go right down the field and score. Set the tone for the game. Maybe they just get a momentum wave, can help ride it to win eventually. But yeah, one key I was going to say is obviously you get Eberflus, you could say Matt Eberflus revenge game. I'm not too concerned from the Bears' perspective that, and there's a report that he was helping with the offensive meetings. Obviously, he knows the Bears well. I think the Bears pretty much entirely changed their offense up with Ben Johnson from when Eberflus was there. So that's not my concern. My thing is, even though the Cowboys' defense has been playing awful, Eberflus has, I don't necessarily want to say gotten the better of Ben Johnson because the Lions won the majority of the games the Bears and Lions played when Eberflus was on the Bears and Ben Johnson was on the Lions, but the Lions offense did not produce to the level we were used to in the Ben Johnson era when they played the Matt Eberflus defense with the Bears for the most part. Now you can say that the Bears defense had more talent than this Cowboys defense, but you can also argue against it. The Lions offense is in a better position to succeed because they had Jared Goff, who is always solid. Caleb Williams, a lot of question marks up and down plays from him. So honestly, just what I'm trying to say here is that it seems like Eberflus, not again, Ben Johnson won the majority of the games, and the Lions offense put up good amount of points most of the time and moved the ball well most of the time, but not to the level we were used to at that point with them. And I don't know. I'm just hopefully what I'm saying makes sense here. I'm just trying to word it and phrase it. Not that Eberflus gets the better of Ben Johnson, but he seems to play Ben Johnson's offense better than most teams. And in a game that I think is going to be high scoring, which defense do I trust to get more stops? Honestly, I would say, even though it's on the road, I might say the Cowboys just because of that Eberflus Ben Johnson effect I was just mentioning there. But it's really hard to say. But the Bears defense is just mauled by injuries right now. They look so good for 3 quarters, and then from the fourth quarter on that Vikings game, the first week they've looked like a disaster. The Cowboys' offense has been, honestly, their offense and defense I think have been better than the Bears. Not that their defense has played good, but yeah, I could see this being like a complete shootout, like some people are predicting. But I have a bit more defense than people are expecting. I just, my guts tell me the Cowboys win a close one. Bears are favored at home by 1.5. Would not at all be surprised if the Bears won. If they do win, I think their defense is going to have to get a bit more, or rather get a key stop or two that I'm not predicting it to get, and their offense is just going to have to overperform a bit. How I'm expecting, very very possible. I actually could see a scenario where the offense just really clicks and they score 30 plus and win that way. But I think regardless of which team wins, it'll be close. Go down to the end. Probably wouldn't bet on the the spread here. Well, I guess if you do bet on the spread, the Bears are, all they have to do is if they win, they just have to win by 2 points and they'll cover the spread. But I probably wouldn't touch it. maybe do an alt spread of like +7. Like I said, I think this will be a one-score game regardless of who wins. But I'm going to go with the Cowboys on the road to pull it off here. Can go either way, but I'm going with Dallas 27-24. Cardinals Niners. This should be an entertaining game. Now it looks like Mac Jones is going to start, which I think is the right decision for the Niners because even if Purdy had came back, it looked like he wasn't going to be 100%. So I think this will be a tight game. So maybe he makes a bad decision. He's not as efficient. They have to punt versus Mac Jones is in there, fully healthy Mac Jones. They wouldn't have had to. So that might have hurt the Niners on top of just risking Purdy getting further injured. I think the Niners defense is really going to be what wins them this game. I think they're going to be able to contain Kyler and company for the most part. I originally had the Cardinals only scoring 17, but then I'm like, I think they'll get a bit more offense than that. So I upped it to 20 there. I'm just very impressed with Robert Saleh's defense 2 weeks into the season so far. It being at home for the Niners, their home opener this season. And it's the Cardinals who are 2-0, but you can argue that they have not been that impressive in both their games. I mean, the Saints, I got to say, even though they're a bit better than we've expected, you can argue that they'll be in contention for the top pick. And they went right down to the wire against them week 1. And then they nearly blew a 24-point lead to a Panthers team that has, has a lot of questions to it right now. Then the Niners, on the other hand, they get a boatload of injuries, but they were able to. They also beat the Saints in a close game, but a bunch of injuries. Backup quarterback with Mac Jones in there. My old guy from the Patriots, who looked very good, by the way. Kyle Shanahan, we got his guy from the 21 draft finally. A good amount of people picking the Cardinals in this game that I see. Niners favored by 2.5. If this was in Arizona, I honestly may pick the Niners even regardless if it was in Arizona. But I probably would pick the Cardinals. I don't know though. I don't know. I'm just gonna ride with the Niners in this game. I do think overall they are the better team anyway, even though they have a bunch of injuries. Like I said, I just think their defense is going to be able to win them the game. I think the Cardinals defense plays a solid game in this one, but I think Mac Jones will probably have a similar performance to how he did last week, and they'll put up somewhere in the low to like mid-20s the amount of points the Niners. I just feel confident the Niners defense plays a good game in this one. If the Cardinals win, I think their offense just Kyler, look for him to have a big scrambling day, improvise, make some big plays. That'll be a reason why the Cardinals win the game if they do. But I don't know. My gut's just telling me Niners. I'm going to roll with them to get a close win here. Cover the spread. I do think if they win, they'll cover the spread. I think they'll at least win by 3. But if the Cardinals win, I think it'll be close. I think it's close regardless of which team wins. But rolling the Niners 23-20 here. And another border I get added. My God, I did awful in this one. Chiefs Giants Sunday night. Now this game, when people I think saw this game on the schedule initially going into the season, it's like, all right, well that's a free win for the Chiefs. We'll watch it, but not going to be too what's the word? Too climactic there. Not too exciting to watch. Maybe probably Chiefs winning a blowout, something like that. Now this game's getting a lot more talk because obviously the Chiefs 0-2. We've not seen them 0-2 in the Mahomes era. And the Giants are 0-2 as well, but I mean Russell Wilson just looked like 2007 Brady, 2013 Manning last week. He friggin' played out of his mind. And the Chiefs defense had played good last week, but you can argue it's struggling a bit. Chargers passed up and down, left and right on the field all over them week 1. And the Giants defense is been really bad. Week 1 it was bad, but it honestly they played worse than the score indicated against the Commanders. I feel like the Commanders would have scored more than 21 the way they were moving the ball most of that game. Then last week their defense obviously played abysmal. The Giants had started off the game hot, and then after that 13-0 lead they played terrible. Then on the other hand, the counter argument is the Chiefs' offense has been awful 2 weeks into the season so far. More so last week, it was terrible. They have no run game whatsoever. That's kind of been a problem for a while for them. They have 0 run game. Mahomes is their leading rusher, which is obviously a significant issue if your quarterback is, the leading rusher. And, Mahomes isn't like a pure pocket quarterback. He's not like Lamar or anything like that. but the Chiefs are favored by 6 on the road. Okay, so I see a couple scenarios how this game could go. I had the Chiefs winning in a one score game 27-20. I could see a scenario where the Chiefs just blow the doors off the Giants, winning a blowout. I could see a scenario where the game is even closer, like than I have it right now, 27-20. I could see 24-21. The Chiefs win right at the end. I could see that scenario playing out. I really have a hard time saying the Giants win this game. I I mean the counter to that Russell Wilson point I just mentioned about him playing, his ass off last week is it seems like, the past like couple years he has one game like that where he just turns back the clock and plays phenomenal. And then, besides that, he just looks borderline washed. So I think he got his good game out of the week last week. Maybe he is a couple more, depending on how long they keep playing him for. But in this one, I think he kind of looks, like the older, borderline washed Russell Wilson that honestly we're kind of used to at this point. Um, and the Chiefs defense, I think the Chiefs defense will play a good game in this one. They played a lot better last week than they did week one against the Chargers. Another thing is that, and I do think their offense gets back on track. They did not do that last week, and I thought they would. The Chiefs offense, I really think they get back on track in this game. One thing to watch out for, I do think the Chiefs are going to have trouble running the ball in this game, but one thing to watch out for is maybe this is the game that the Giants' defensive line, we've been saying the whole year, the Giants' defensive line is insane on paper. Maybe this is the game where they kind of break out and that shows because, the Chiefs' offensive line, it feels like it's been, a big question for like 2 seasons now. So maybe this, they get some sacks on Mahomes. They really create pressure. Like I said, I really don't think the Chiefs are going to have a good day running the ball. So maybe the Giants' defensive line is a good game, breakout game in this one, showcase game. But I mean, the Chiefs know that they really need this game. They're, of course, if they lose, they're not mathematically, eliminated or anything. But they really know that they do not want to start off 0-3, especially against a Giants team that, sorry, Dylan, if you're watching this, it's a bad team, bad team. Um, you know, it's especially, Dayball is on extremely thin ice. So is Shane Bowen, their defensive coordinator. Report came out today. Both of them are on very thin ice. If the Giants do win the game, I think I kind of just laid it out. I think their defensive line is going to be a big reason, and I don't think in any means Russell Wilson plays as well as he did last week, but maybe he, has a really efficient Russell Wilson game, sort of a turn back the clock game, prime time. The Chiefs defense is really aggressive, blitzes a lot, leaves guys one-on-one, so maybe Russell Wilson can beat it with his moon balls. He's still really good at deep throws, so maybe that could be a key reason, but I just have a really hard time seeing the Giants win this game. I hope it happens, though. I would have a big smile on my face. I have to root for the Giants as a friggin' Patriots fan this week. Probably the only time I'll ever root for the Giants. If the Chiefs do lose, I will be so happy, though. I will be one of the happiest people on this planet. I hate this team so much. But unfortunately, I just really do not see that happen. I will say it was Monday Night Football in the 21 season. The Chiefs were 3-4, so they were struggling. Their offense did not look good up to that point for the most part. And this was against the Giants were bad too, and they were struggling. And it was in Kansas City. And the Giants, if I remember right, were leading in the fourth quarter, and the Chiefs had to come from behind to win. So, this game sort of similar vibes with this Giants team, I think is better than that one was. But this Chiefs team is worse than that one, you can say. I would not at all be surprised if this game is closer than I have it been. I don't think it's impossible for the Giants to win, but I would be shocked if they did win. I would not touch the spread on this game with the Chiefs, at least being favored by 6. They very well could. I have them covering, but very well could cover it. But I think it could be a really close game. And even if the Chiefs win this game close, it's like 24-21. The discussions, depending on how the game plays out, are probably going to be like, all right, well, the Chiefs won, but they just narrowly beat the god awful Giants. Like something is seriously wrong with them. But we'll have to see how the game plays out, obviously. And I had the Chiefs bouncing back in this one. Their offense gets back on track. Hopefully I'm wrong, though. Winning 27-20. And then the Monday night game, this should be a good one. Detroit, Baltimore. I have this as a complete shootout. The Ravens defense starting to get some injuries. The Lions defense, you can say there's some questions there. They actually played, a bit better than I've expected 2 weeks into the season. Their offense, I expected their offense to play really good last week. I certainly did not expect it to put up a 50 burger against the Bears. I don't think either team will be scoring, 50 plus in this one. I actually almost, I had like 30-24 as the final. I almost took a couple points off the Lions, and I'm like, why not? I'll give them 27. I'm like, I could see it. I'm like, fuck it, why not? I'll give them 27 points. If this was in Detroit, I think I probably would pick Baltimore still, but it being in Baltimore, prime time gives me more confidence. I mean, overall, I think the Ravens are the better team overall at home, prime time. Like I said, it's a complete shootout. The Ravens, to me, I just trust them more in this game. I mean, a shootout, you usually say, all right, well, which defense do you trust to get more stops? Well, I think you kind of have to pick the Ravens, even though they're getting some injuries there. I think you have to pick the Ravens defense to get some more stops than the Lions defense here. I think Lamar might have I think Derrick Henry's going to have a big game too. He did very little against the Browns last week, but I think he'll have a good game. I think Lamar scrambling might have a big game in this one. I think the Ravens offense will be the Ravens offense we're used to. They're putting up a bunch of points, good mix of run and pass. Lamar, some runs here and there, explosive plays. I think we'll get that from them. I could see the Lions only scoring 20, 21. The Ravens defense plays a bit better than and most people are anticipating. I could see that scenario. But I think the Lions really, got back on track with their offense last week. The Ravens defense has really not been too great 2 weeks into the season. They had a very unlucky touchdown. The tip touchdown. 2 weeks in a row, they've had a tip touchdown. That their opponent has gotten. In the first one, it led to the Bills' comeback. So they got very unlucky there. And then last week, it looked like the Browns might have momentum, but then Lamar on the following series converted a 3rd and long to Zay Flowers, get momentum back, and they scored to basically put a stranglehold on the game from there. I just lost my original talking point. Now I'm blanking here. What the hell was I just saying? Completely blanking now. I don't know. I think the Lions will have a good amount of success offensively. Obviously, I had them scoring 27. I don't know. At home, primetime Baltimore. I think Baltimore is a better team. Less questions than this Lions team. I'm just trusting the Ravens more. They're favored by 4.5. Very well could cover that. I don't have them covering it. I only had them winning by 4. They very well could cover it. Like I said, I had a 30-24 original final. Then I updated it. So, they would have covered under that original score. I'm pretty confident with the Ravens, honestly. I probably won't touch the spread, but I'll probably pick their money line. If the Lions do win, I wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be a bit surprised. I think their defense I really think the Ravens offense plays a good game, but their defense will probably have to get a stop or two more that, I'm not expecting it to get. And their offense is just going to have to overperform. Simply just overperform. I'm expecting it to, because I just think the Ravens get at least a couple of stops in this one defensively, just 1 or 2 more key stops than the Lions defense gets. I just think if Baltimore doesn't at least score 27 in this game, I'll be a bit surprised, barring injuries or something like that. I just simply trust the Ravens at home a bit more, but should be an entertaining game. Definitely worthy of Monday night game. I'm going to go with the Ravens 31-27. Very entertaining game in that one, though. Okay, that is all of my picks for the game. So I will end the video here. A bunch of good games this week, it looks like. So I always say good luck with your picks, betting, fantasy-wise, all that good stuff. Good luck to your team, unless it's the Chiefs, no offense. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed. Looks like an entertaining slate of games, so hopefully you enjoy the week. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed. Have a good week watching football, and take it easy, guys.